Entering the investment conference this week, South Africa needs do its best, but Busi Mavuso, CEO of South African Business Leadership, says the company does little to make itself attractive foreign and domestic investors. The fifth and final South African Investment Conference will be held in Johannesburg on April 13th and will form part of the government's plans to attract investments worth $1.2 trillion over 5 years. SAIC brings delegates to South Africa from around the world, and last year's event raised 367 billion rupees in investment commitments, bringing the country closer to its 5-year goal. Since the first conference in 2018, South Africa has attracted investment commitments worth $1.14 trillion. In order for investment flow continue country, constant attention must be paid South African brand shown investors. Mavuo said that if government wants to ensure trillions of dollars are invested in the country, government communications should focus on progress in offloading, sticking to national energy plan and ending renewable energy sources, not exempting Eskom from disclosure requirements. To clear confusion about coal and the national disaster situation. According to CEO, fiasco last week involving recall of national disaster situation and exemption of Eskom from reporting certain financial reports left road to conference very poor. There were a few mistakes in way the government communicated with market, Mavuso said. One of the most notable errors had to do with the exemption granted to Eskom, which allowed it not report irregular, inefficient and wasteful expenditures in its annual financial statements. On April 5th, Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana withdrew the exemption. The Treasury initially said exemption introduced primarily to protect embattled power companies' credit rating and audit opinion, but this was met with mass public protest that exemption misused to drive further corruption at company. The way the exemption to keep information from rating agencies was communicated to the market a serious blunder, Mavuso said. It damages the government's reputation as an honest addressee to investors. Despite withdrawal of the exemption, Godongwana made it clear that this was only a temporary withdrawal and that exemption would be reinstated at some point. So the anxiety around the movement continues. Electricity Minister Kgosiento Ramokgopa made another mistake last week, diverting attention from South Africa's energy sector's transition to more renewable energy sources, by telling reporters that South Africa's aging coal-fired power plant fleet must become a priority again. While it is entirely true stations need be managed to improve performance, it has been widely quoted that the minister said more government investment needs be made in coal mines, extend the lifespan of stations and produce more coal, Mavuso said. This will not be about making stations work better, it will be about abandoning plan put forward by National Electricity Crisis Committee based on current decommissioning program for Eskom facilities. Mavuso said the minister himself may not have intended to imply a move away from renewable energy, but his comments risked being misinterpreted by foreign investors, who are planning to pour billions of dollars into the country's coal-fading process. Mavuso said the electricity minister's focus should be on increasing renewable energy sources if investment is to flow into the country. One of the PR opportunities was that Nersa released data showing 1.2 gigawatts of new electricity generation recorded in March, bringing the quarter's total to 2.4 gigawatts. This is quite an achievement, but there has been no press release or comment from the minister on it, said Mavuso. He said that if there was an opportunity to tell a credible story of progress towards resolving the load shedding problem, the minister should outline it. South Africa's bad PR continued as the disastrous situation in the energy crisis abruptly receded. The catastrophic situation was already under intense scrutiny by businesses, politicians and citizens as it was ultimately meaningless. The abrupt termination essentially reinforced this view. The inevitable impression is that the government does not have good reasons to declare a state of disaster and is completely unnecessary when dealing with the electricity crisis, said Mavuso. Attending investment conference this week, Mavuso said government should signal world that it is committed to transition renewable energy. Read how much does it cost to build a house in South Africa, Johannesburg versus Cape Town versus Durban.